Welcome back to Kids Life. Today we're talking about argumentative children with our resident guest, Michael Grose. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Great to be here.
Now, I'm sure we all know an argumentative child. How do we handle these children?
Don't argue back is the short answer. Yeah, look, some kids are serial debaters. Others just want to have the last word, and some just love to win. If you've got a group of kids, you'll always get a sort of an argumentative one.
Sure.
And some ages tend to be more argumentative than others.
Of course.
Particularly as we move into adolescence when there's a fair bit to debate about.
Yes.
So where do we start? I guess we actually start with you as a parent, whether you like to argue or not. And it's interesting from my own perspective. I find that my kids often don't argue with me purely because I'm not that great at arguing. I sort of disengage, and it doesn't worry me about having the last word. However, with my wife, and we've talked about this a lot, they love having a good argument because she does too.
Yeah.
And so have a look at yourself. I think in some ways we've got to move away from the notion of, sometimes we think we've got to explain everything to kids. And I think sometimes with our instructions that we need to be fairly brief with them, and we don't have to explain ourselves all the time. When we start to explain ourselves, often what we do is give kids something to argue against. Now, this in some ways is saying this is going to happen just because I say it's going to happen. I think we've got to be okay about that. We've moved into a stage now where we think we've got to engage with our kids all the time and explain everything. And that's wearing, that's tiring. So there needs to be that time where we actually say to kids, no, this is the way it is. I'm not going to argue about that. However, if you do want to talk with me, let's sit down and talk at an appropriate moment, but not right now.
Yep.
So I guess part of it is actually disengaging with kids and not engaging in that argument. And kids will fairly soon learn that, gee, mum's not willing to engage in this. And I've actually got to say it's often more mums than dads. Because what we do know is that mothers are more likely to talk with their kids. They talk far more with their kids rather than dads.
Yeah.
Dads often come home and they'll actually say it fairly quickly or go ballistic. And so there's not that much to argue about.
Exactly.
And so in some ways we would need to sort of shut mums down a bit and open dads up to a fair degree.
Yep.
A lot of the arguing which we're talking about in this segment is the yes, but, it's not fair type stuff. And I just think that we need to, I call it robotic disengagement.
Okay.
I've got some tips. I use the broken record technique.
Right.
When if we've asked a child, please come home after school straight away because I need you home. And the child might turn around and say, look, I've got to go. And you say, please come home after school. I need you home. It's not fair, he says. Please come home after school. I need you home. But you'll never. Please come. It's called the broken record technique.
That is very suiting.
It is, and it works gangbusters for boys because their vocab runs out after about 4.
I bet.
You've got to be
and
clever on
girls?
that with girls. No, you've got to keep going with girls.
Okay.
I say that in humour, but actually I really do mean that. You actually don't get sidetracked down a game of kids making. State your point if you feel fairly strongly about it and just keep repeating that, or get the hell out of there so that they get the message that mum's not really arguing about this.
Yeah.
Because kids will often throw the rope too. They'll say something like, it's not fair, or why me, which is an invitation to an argument. And we get tired as parents, and I call that throwing the rope, that why me stuff. It's not fair. You're always picking on me. I call it throwing the rope. And we as parents sometimes actually have a choice to pick up that rope and argue with the kids. And when we do argue with the kids, we often turn into the child and we start laying the guilt trip on them and all that.
Yeah. Or
Or we leave that rope go, let it go, turn away and address the kids later on at a time when you're calm, they're calm. And we're more likely to say, listen, I've just asked you to do X, Y and Z. When I do ask you, I really would appreciate it to be done when it's done. Let's want to have a chat about that now.
Yeah.
We want to do it in a different way now. So at the point of conflict, we often feel like we've got to justify ourselves, or that we must explain, or we must jump in. And sometimes the best thing we can actually do is actually state our piece and then get the hell out of there.
So it is quite easy for a parent to tell if it's just an opinion a kid's throwing around or whether this is going to start an argument, yeah?
Yeah, you know your own kids.
Yeah.
Kids will often move into different stages as well. You'll know that just about every family will have the argumentative one, and you know that they always like to have the last word.
Yep.
And that last wordedness, if you're a very controlling parent who loves to have the last word yourself, it's almost an invitation. And some people just can't let that go. So there's that aspect. And there's also, particularly as kids move into adolescence and they're feeling like they want more control, sometimes they'll argue over minor things purely because they want to defeat you, let you know that you can't make me do anything.
Yeah.
And there's also a third group which I've noticed, which has come through over the last few years. I put them in the argumentative category, but they're a group of kids beginning with P. They're the kids who pester their parents. They use pester power, and they just keep at their parents and at their parents and at their parents to buy them something or to take them somewhere. And if you're a sole parent, those kids wear you down.
Yeah, I bet.
And pester power is alive and well living in Australian homes. So that's another form of argumentative kids. I'm not too sure what you do about that as parents, but make yourself scarce. Use the bathroom technique, which is actually put headphones on, go into the toilet and sit down and read a book and
That's a good
get
idea.
away from the kids.
Lock the door.
Lock the door and take yourself away.
Definitely.
Because it's pretty hard to argue with a door, but some kids will try that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Michael.
That's a pleasure.